I remember a fight, and I dropped this guy hard. I dropped him nice, and he's in this neutral corner. I mean, they're in the corner, and they're counting, right? And I'm in my corner, and I'm begging the powers that be. I'm saying, please, please don't stop the fight. Please don't stop the fight. Please, please let him come, because he was so groggy. I wanted to run across the ring, and I wanted to hit him so hard that he just disintegrated, right? I wanted that so
Jesus,
bad.
Scully, that's
And
crazy.
when the referee stopped the fight, I was so upset. And I was like, man, he deprived me of that chance. Like, I had the chance to obliterate this man into dust. And, but I that's what that's when I realized, like, I can do this. Like, I have the mentality for this. The fact is, if you don't have that mentality when it comes down to it, and I've seen pro fighters, good fighters. I saw good. I'm not gonna name them, of course. I saw a good fighter, a guy who was really, he was a great amateur, a good fighter. He turned pro, and I remember he was on a pay-per-view show, and he had a cut. It was not a bad cut. It was. I've had I've had 7 cuts twice as bad as the cut he had.
Yeah.
Gruesome cuts.
Uh-huh.
Nothing. He had nothing compared to what I had. And he quit in the corner. He quit when he had the cut. And I said, man, this is a good fighter, but when it comes down to being a pro's pro, he doesn't want it. If you cannot quit because of a cut. I don't care. I don't care what anybody on earth says. If you quit because you're cut, you are not cut out to be a pro fighter. Period. And so it takes a special person. And my ultimate point is, like Rocky's trainer said in Rocky 3, and he said, "You're becoming civilized. The worst thing ever could happen to you." And I equate that to Javante. Javante lives in
Yeah.
a nice house. He's got his daughters. He might be becoming civilized. You know what I mean? And the daughters are softening him up a little bit. And he's thinking about them, and he's thinking about how they perceive him. Uh, you know, Mike Tyson didn't do that. You know, Tyson had kids. He was still a savage to the end. You know what I mean? There's levels to this, and if Javante, or anybody, not just Javante, but anybody who starts thinking about retirement should just retire. If you're gonna do it, then do it. Do it now.
That's a great point, but that's where I feel where he's coming from. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if you got kids, Skull,
Yeah.
but I look at my little girl, right, and I
Right.
have 3 boys, but
Right.
when it comes to girls, and he has 2 daughters, this when I heard what he said, it really touched me because I was like, your girl is always gonna have something over you that nobody else can have. When you have
Yeah.
2 girls, that's double that. So I can understand when Javante said that. I've seen a lot of people critique him and like, oh, what are you doing? You don't want to be great. And I get it. But nothing is greater than being there for those girls. And
Right. Yeah.
I get it, and you're right. It does. Hearing your story about how you wanted to kill the guy in front of him,
Yeah.
I think Gervonta has seen so much in his life, growing up in the streets of Baltimore, growing
Right.
up seeing all that type of stuff, and he sees his girls, and he does not want them to see that. He does not want to
Right. Oh,
see,
look at.
yeah,
I applaud him for
yeah,
that. I
yeah,
respect him 100%
yeah,
for that. 100%. I respect it. I applaud him. I think it's a great thing. But like I say, it might not be the mentality for a
yeah,
savage. You know what
yeah.
I mean? You
No,
got
yeah,
to be a savage. Boxing, people watch fights, and they could say, "Wow, that's a tough fight." I say, "Yeah, but you really don't understand what it means." Like I've been in fights where I was in a fight where I was hallucinating during the fight. I
Skull,
thought
get
I was
out
in
of
the
here. Are you
I
serious?
for 9 rounds, from the second round to the 10th, end of the 10th, I thought I was in the dressing room thinking about the fight. That's how bad it was. I was losing weight. I was very dehydrated. I got caught with a monster punch in the second round, and from that point to the end of the fight, when I went to the hospital after to get rehydrated, I didn't know till I got there that one of my friends was in the car with me, sitting next to me. It wasn't until he said something, because I was blind. I was blind, and I was just out of it. And when he spoke up and said something, I said, "Man, His name's Mike. And I was like, man, Mike's here. In my head, I'm thinking, man, I didn't even know he was here. I didn't know he was with us. So that's that's what that's nothing. You ask any pro fighter, what's the craziest thing ever happened to you? You will be amazed at what they tell you. I was in a fight one time. I got hit with a shot, and we were in a gym. We fought in the gym, a pro fight, and there was a heating system there. And I know sometimes it goes on. And when I got caught with a shot, I remember thinking, man, the heating system went on, but it's really loud, louder than normal, right? And then I realized that wasn't the heating system. That was my head. My head was vibrating so loud it sounded like a chainsaw, like somebody started a chainsaw. That was my brain. That was inside my head.
Jesus.
Yeah, man. Believe me,
It's
every
insane.
fighter, that's nothing. Every fighter you ever interview, if you ask them, they're going to tell you a similar story.
I mean, listen, and you're right. You have to be a savage. I mean, even some of these females, they've become savages.
Yeah.
Watching
Oh
Amanda
man, that
Serrano, Katie
Serrano
Taylor,
girl and Katie Taylor. Yeah.
it's oh man. See, like I love what you just said about being civilized. So you're becoming. I mean, that is arguably the greatest assessment I think I've ever heard, because you never think about that. You never think about you know, you don't think about what these guys are going through. When we see guys like Gervonta, Canelo, we're just seeing great athletes. We're just like, oh, he's a great fighter. Well, you just told me I would never let my kids fight. That's insane.
Oh, listen, you want to listen? Guy from my gym, he fights a fight in Atlantic City. He gets dropped in the first round, and he ends up getting stopped in the eighth round, the last round. It was an 8 round fight.
Yeah.
Going back to the dressing room, he's embarrassed. And he's saying, man, it's embarrassing, man. I can't believe it. And they're like, hey, it happens, man. It happens. He goes, yeah, but getting knocked out in the first round, man, that's never happened to me before. And they're like, no, man, you got knocked out in the eighth round. He's like, no, don't try to make me feel better. I got knocked out in the first. They had to have the referee come in and tell him, nah, man, you got knocked out in the eighth round. Like, you went 8 rounds. When he got hurt and dropped in the first round, that was it. He lost consciousness. He fought the 8 rounds just on, you know, mentality. Like his spirit took over. He didn't know. He thought he got knocked out in the first round.
Scully, this is arguably one of the craziest interviews I've ever had, because listen, I've been a fan of boxing for my whole life, and I've
Yeah.
never seen it from that perspective. I mean,
Man.
literally, I mean, and this is the crazy thing. And I was watching another interview. I forgot who it was. I don't know if it was Cigar Talk or whatever. And he was saying that even in sparring, you're taking headshots. Like, you're taking a lot of headshots, and then you're going into the ring like that. So, I mean, I take my hat off to you guys, but I mean, I don't know how boxing isn't outlawed the way you're
Yeah,
explaining. It's
listen,
crazy.
I've said that. I've said that to myself when I've been in the middle of fights or I've been in the gym and I've seen stuff happen and whatever. I've said to myself, it's really crazy that this is legal. Like,
Yeah.
it's really crazy that this is legal. It's I tell you one more. I'll tell you one more. Friend of mine, right? Guy in the gym with me. He's sparring, and this guy was good. This guy was a ranked contender. He fought for the world title. Top guy. He's sparring in the gym. He gets hit with a shot. After he gets out of the ring, he doesn't know who he is. His father just happened to come and watch the sparring that day, right? The father comes in. He didn't recognize his father. He didn't know who his father was. His
Jesus
father
Christ.
started crying. And he was, the kid was fine. Like, he was talking and everything, but he's like, who are you? And he's like, what? He said, who are you? He said, what are you talking about? I'm your father. Are you crazy? And he didn't know what happened to him. He didn't know that he just sparred and got blasted with a shot. Uh, and he didn't get knocked out or anything. He just got hit with a really good shot and messed up. And yeah, that was a while ago. That was like 15 years ago. But Everybody who was there, they remember that day for sure.
Skull, man. I mean, this is it's insane to actually hear how. I mean, and listen, and it's kind of sad because there's so many boxers that so many things get overlooked, right? Like I think within the last 10 years or something like that, over 50 or 60 boxers have died, and it's been kind of
Right.
swept under the rug. So
Right.
to actually hear this, and people still want people to go boxers to go out there and pretty much lay it out on the line is
Oh man,
absolutely
listen,
absurd.
I've been there when guys have died. I was in the I was in the dressing room with
No
a
way,
guy.
dude. No way.
We fought on the same show, and he won his fight. He fought a really tough fight. He won his fight. It was rough. And I remember being in the dressing room. I was getting ready to leave, and he was laying on the couch, and he had a towel over his face, and he was kind of moaning. And I remember thinking, wow, he had a really tough fight. Like, this dude's tired, man. And I said goodbye to him on the way out. Like, all right, man, I'll see you next time. And he kind of mumbled something to me, and he went into a coma like that day, and he died 2 days later.
Jesus Christ, God bless him. Didn't Boom Boom Mancini? Didn't he go through something like that as well? And
Yeah,
apparently,
Dooku Kim, 1982.
it just really. I mean, imagine you go into the ring, you go box somebody. You're not thinking you're killing them. At least I don't. I hope you're
Well,
not.
no, that's my point. When I had that guy hurt and I wanted the referee to let it go, he was I could see he was wobbling and everything. I was going to hit him as hard as I could, right? It never crossed my mind that I could hurt him. To me, it was like a video game. It was like playing, right?
Yeah.
I was going to hit him as hard as I could. I wanted the greatest knockout in boxing history to be mine, right? And never at all did it occur to me that I would hurt him. It never dawned on me.
You got to be a different type of person to think like that, man.
That's
I'm
what I'm
not gonna
saying.
lie. I mean,
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And that's where Tank is starting to turn that corner. He's not going to be that person much longer, and he's got to get out of the game before he gets out of the game.
listen, listen, I support it in regards to him. Wanting to leave just for everything that you just said. Everything that you just said makes me back him at the. Listen, get your money, get out of it. Take care of your kids, man.